Hey guys, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell to be updated every time I make a new video. Thanks, let's begin. A movie with the word hanging in the title, and there ain't even any hangings. I mean, there's strangulation, but still. Hanging Heart. This film was, I believed, finished in 1983, but was not released until 1989 because during that time, marketing a film like this, it's a little harder than it looks, given the content. I can see why. This is the first entry in the Homegrown Horrors box set volume 2. It's a bit of an odd duck out of this box set because it looks a bit too polished and good to be put in a box set like this. Let's say well made. I feel it was added because it might not sell well otherwise, but that is just my assumption. The plot: time heals all wounds, except the permanent physical ones. After a woman is strangled to death, a man with a troubled past is thought to be the killer. However, is he actually responsible or just being free? I was going to say as the mystery unravels, but the film kind of just solves itself after having sheer luck happen, and the art of deduction from the audience. Not deduction in the way of cracking down everything and putting the pieces together to realize, oh yeah, it's definitely this person. No, more so there's only two characters left that could be it, and it's definitely not the red herring. The film relishes in its simplicity. With its $300,000 budget, nothing really happens. Extravagant-wise, that is. It is well shot and has interesting ideas behind the camera. However, on camera, they just look kind of silly. The editing in this film is a bit odd. Shots will be mismatched purposely, but it's confusing. I had no idea where certain characters were at certain times. There were some decent transitions, but the coloring was off, which made it look odd, and it didn't match perfectly. What I find interesting about this homoerotic horror film is that all the women who flock over our main character are all terrible for him.
You know, Denny, professional actors don't really fool around with each other.
He keeps going through them until he lands on the decent one. The only decent one of the bunch. Freaking baby magnet. For the characters, we have Denny Curtis, played by Barry Wyatt. He is an actor who has a part in the play. He is sleeping with his co-star, who ends up being strangled to death in the opening sequences. He is obviously suspect numero uno, because he is found holding the body. However, we as an audience see what happened, and unless there's a flashback later on in the film that alters those events, it's pretty obvious that it wasn't him. Denny is all torn up about his love, Kathy, I think. He's also staying with his lawyer, which I feel would be a conflict of interest, maybe? Or at least a detriment to his case, since the lawyer is representing and living with him. Anyway, Elliot Scott is a man who deeply cares about Denny. I didn't really think much of it at first. I mean, I was like, oh, he's just a really good friend, but oh yeah, he's got ulterior motives. Elliot wants to sleep with Denny, and Denny does not suspect it at all. You could chalk it up to him being absorbed in his own emotions, but the guy literally has dreams about Elliot giving him BJs in the shower. Like, what's going on here? Also, Elliot has a father who shouldn't have even been in the movie. He is in a nursing home and only serves as a bit of slapstick comedy relief. There is a somewhat sad scene that involves a phone call between the two, but it's replaced by the father getting hit in the head with a ball. Julie, played by Francine Lipinski, is a struggling actress who may have a secret she is harboring from Denny that comes out of nowhere and serves very little purpose. David Coleman is a random private investigator who comes too close to the truth and then exits the picture. He isn't killed off or anything, he just leaves the movie. I'm not even kidding. He just quits the investigation and that's it. George McGill, played by Dan Zukovic, who actually went on to have a pretty decent career, is a cop who wants to pin Denny to the wall for what he presumes is a pretty much open and shut case, with Denny being the murderer. However, he doesn't serve a purpose, nor does he really have a motive or reason for being in the movie, other than the fact that he has a gun. He does have a hilarious roundhouse kick scene that I wished was used in the climax, but it wasn't. No! Richard, played by John Stevens, is a red herring, but is really kept on the back burner, never really being in the movie too much to be memorable. They definitely had ideas here, and the director, Jimmy Lee, could have done more. But with the as-before-mentioned $300,000 budget, there were obvious limitations. Still, there are very small chunks of the film that work well. The last shot is wonderful. It starts off as a one-take, going past prison cells. Then it lands on a character who is giving his last testimony to the judge, to himself, and in the past. So it's like he's just repeating what the audio is saying. Very effective. It's actually a rather heartbreaking confession. The film also has plenty of penetration, but not the kind you were thinking of. For the gore, the effects, we get some dry strangulations with nylon pantyhose, light blood splatter, and very little else. The effects are nothing to write home about. However, as it stands, the wigged killer is rather unsettling. It gave me somewhat Malignant vibes. You know the James Wan film? Similar kind of costume. The motion picture soundtrack, it's a very laxed score. Simply an effective synth work. It doesn't push the envelope, nor does it particularly stick out, but it is soothing. The end credits song is weak, sorry to say. The ballad doesn't hit hard enough, like the last shot of the film deserved. Overall, this could have been handled so much better. The story is good, the script isn't strong enough. You don't feel a connection with the characters, or the events going on around them. I feel a few more rewrites and stronger actors and actresses, for the most part, would have benefited the film greatly. As it sits right now, it's a bland movie with some decent ideas, and it needed a bit more of a push, being guided into the right direction. Yeah, the killer is kind of like a Gialli, Malignant-esque character, and so are the killings, the black gloves, everything, but man, it needed more.
Now let's go over Vinegar Syndrome's Blu-ray release, which is actually pretty solid. The film's footage does have some static, but it's nothing too noticeable. The audio is as good as it could have been, given the fact that some of the lines in this film were overdubbed at times. The extras include Directing from the Heart, which runs for 23 minutes. Writer-director Jimmy Lee goes over the process of getting the film distributed, and how he loves the film for its shocking revelations, hard cuts, and that one tracking shot that I mentioned in the review. Next is The Many Hats of Mr. White, which features Michael J. White, who talks about how he met Mr. Lee. He also discusses how he worked with Panavision, and how he worked in other locations that would eventually be featured in Haining Heart, such as the police station, courtroom, prison, and mental institution. He also talks about the white convertible sports car, which was also being used in LA law at the time. He discusses the home video market, which was booming around this time, so he took advantage of that opportunity. He discusses how the foreign distributors just screwed them and many others over. Lastly, he talks about how the film was shot in 4 weeks, and they did have a screening for it. Next up is A Hero Who Kicks, which runs for 17 minutes and features Dan Zukovic, who talked about his past in the industry and his band, The Gargoyles, which is an awesome name for a band. Painting with Ingrid is a 7-minute interview with actress Ingrid Vold, as she discusses her experience with Dustin Hoffman while window browsing at a shop. She talks about what she likes about the film, the undertones, and the title itself. Music is Where the Heart is an 8-minute interview with Eric Ekstrand, who would also be known as the Mole, because he would never leave the basements that had his piano in it. He was not a big fan of Jimmy Lee or the film, calling it homophobic. There were 2 other songs he wrote. One was real dynamic, but Lee disliked and rejected it. He has his own band that is still together today. He never met the other composer, Nathan Wang, but he did talk to him over the phone. Then there is a pretty solid original trailer, as well as the new Vinegar Syndrome trailer for the film. There's a still gallery, and lastly, there are English SDH subtitles. That's a lot for this film. There's the front, the back, and the inside. And there is a reversible cover. The one that I have on the outside is from Vinegar Syndrome.
Let me know what you thought about this film in the comment section below. Thank you all for watching. You've been watching Sharkhouse Entertainment, and I am your host, Brian Gatto. Make sure to like, comment on, as well as share this video. Like my Facebook fan page and support me on Patreon. Also hit that notification bell to be notified every time I make a new video, and as always, subscribe. It's a hating heart.